Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday, and you know what that means.
Front Office Friday!
Let's go. That's right. It's Friday. We've got the weekend coming. We're going to kick things off talking some NBA basketball. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me over on X at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Those of you joining live over here on the YouTube channel, we're going to be taking your questions and comments. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button on the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's Friday. It's been a good week. It's an in-season tournament day, so I'm kind of fired up. I like the in-season tournament. I'm really enjoying it, so I'm excited. So I'm fired up for that. There's a bunch of what do they call them? Early season tournaments in college basketball as well that are happening. So there's basketball on pretty much all day from like noon straight through. So I've been watching some college games and the like, which is not something I spend a lot of time doing during the year. So fired up for that too. It's just a great time.
Let's start with that in-season tournament because you mentioned it. The in-season tournament, you've been liking it. The NBA caught a lot of flack for doing this. People said it was too much like the European soccer model, said it was not going to work. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to care about it. That was what I heard. And you know what? I myself was skeptical that it was going to work. However, I don't think I anticipated the players being as motivated as they are by the $500,000 prize money. And we're seeing some really good basketball. In fact, I feel like there is, when you have, at least this is my perspective through the Lakers anyway, when I see a tournament game and then the next game occurs, it feels like there's a little bit of a letdown. Like the quality of the game seems to drop, and I find myself a little disappointed that it's not a tournament game. So, in that sense, I think so far the tournament has been a maybe surprising win for the NBA.
Yeah, at the very least, the in-season tournament was going to be treated like regular season games in November.
Yeah.
And all right, we all know those are treated with some level of, I don't want to say disinterest because that's not fair to those involved, but just not as important as games later in the year. But they are very like they ended up getting an increased level of importance on it, and that's been good. Anything that can juice November basketball is a win in my book, and I think the NBA's done really well with this. And there are tweaks I think they need to make, and I think they will do that down the line. I think there are little things they could do to make this just a little bit better of an experience, and I think they'll do that in the coming years because we know, much like with the play-in tournament and all that, they like to. Sorry, I just saw the imposter pop in. I like it's they're gonna get there. So it's gonna be fun, right? They tweak things, they'll adjust it, but it's already been good, and I'm excited for tonight.
Yeah, I am as well. I think it's 11 tournament games that are on the schedule for
I
tonight.
think so, yeah.
That's exciting to see. I even have been as offended as I was by the floors. I found that as the game goes on, I get more and more used to seeing that court. And I do think you mentioned tweaks. I still think that's something they can
Yeah.
and will tweak. You can tone down the floors a little bit while still making it feel more like a big event, make it something that people flipping through channels will stop and see and notice that something different is happening. So maybe that's a tweak that we see. But overall, I think it's been more fun and more exciting than I necessarily anticipated. For example, the beginning of the tournament, I didn't talk at all about where any team was in the standings in the
Mhm.
tournament or necessarily care. And now I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. Like,
Sure.
all right, here's where everybody's at. So it's I think it's something that is steadily gaining a little bit more acceptance. And hopefully the goal for the NBA by the time we have the finals, which is not that far away, coming up December 9th, by the time we have that, and more people will have accepted it. And then next year, we actually have people looking forward to the NBA in-season tournament.
Yeah, I think on the floors they'll definitely make some tweaks there. I think they've learned some of it was it's just too much, especially like the bright red floors and in the like. And we've seen others, some of the broadcast partners have said, "Hey, this is not a good color for television and those kind of
Mhm.
things." So that's going to happen. I think the other tweaks, it could be to the schedule, maybe trying to put these on a night where if you're playing an in-season tournament night, they've already done it, so you're not coming. It's never the second night of a back-to-back, but
Mhm.
maybe trying to make it so it's not the first night as well.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's getting more and more limited because the other part of the challenge is this comes at a time of year where they try to really limit back-to-backs in the first few weeks of the season, and in addition, you end up in a spot where it is you take election day off, and the NBA also takes Thanksgiving Day off. So you're removing 2 full days from the schedule there where you don't schedule any games. So that's a little bit of a challenge. So we'll see, how that comes together. The election day thing, I'm not sold that's going to stay a thing. That
Mhm.
grew out of using buildings as polling places, and maybe that'll be a thing in years where there's a presidential election. And in the off years, maybe they won't do that. I don't know. We'll see, because I know a lot of the buildings were not used as polling places in these midterm elections. So we'll see what that looks like down the line. But I'm with you. Overall, I think this has been a good win for the NBA. People seem to be excited about it, and it's really fun. Now we're getting second and third games being played for some teams.
Yeah.
It's like must-win territory if they want to win the group, or if they want to be in range for one of those 2 wild card spots to get into the knockout rounds, which is also kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that I think is gonna add to some of the excitement as well, and then, of course, the games, I believe it's just the semifinal and the final wind up in Las Vegas, if
Correct.
I'm not mistaken, so,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be cool too, seeing the venue change, and then do you get in rather than, like, a real home court advantage for a certain team, do you get in a real mix of fans in the building? I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be interesting, kind of, obviously, way smaller scale, but kind of a Super Bowl effect,
Yes.
right? You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Where it's not necessarily just fans of one team that are in the building. I think that will create an interesting atmosphere as well.
Yeah, definitely. And if some underdog makes a run, it'll almost have that like NCAA tournament feel, right? Where then all of the neutral fans tend to lean towards the underdog, and
Yeah.
they'll be really fired up for them as well. A couple people have asked me this on social media. I've been asked this on radio hits. One of the things is people are like, what happens when we get into that portion? The group stage is over and we're into the knockout rounds. What happens to the other, right? 8 teams make it to the initial part of the knockout round. What happens to the other 22 teams? There are days, if you look, there's like a hole in the schedule, and I keep
Mhm.
saying they're like missing games.
Yeah.
What happens is you get scheduled games against teams from the other groups. So they're just regular season games that you would have been scheduled for and play anyway. Those will be scheduled in those periods of time. We just don't know yet who's going to have them and who they'll be against and whatnot. So that'll get done, here as this group stage wraps up. So it's a little tough because it can make it a little hard for people trying to plan and know, all right, I'm going to this game against this team
Mhm.
at this time and date, but it's all part of it. And again, that could be something maybe they tweak and figure out down the line. Also, just so people, as a final reminder on this one, the only teams that will play an extra game are the teams who make it all the way to the final. They will play one extra game, and at that point, they're competing for 500K per person, and nobody's going to be too upset about playing one extra game with a shot at 500K. And I forget what the loser
I
share
was
is,
just gonna
but
ask.
it's
It's money.
decently sized as well. So
Yeah.
they'll be they'll be fairly happy because it's for a lot of these guys more than a standard game check would be. So they're going to be okay to play that one extra game.
So I've got the fake me says I got a fresh cut a couple weeks ago. I don't know why I'm wearing a hat already. Got to show off the hair. I was just not feeling doing anything to my hair today. I said, you know what? I'm gonna throw on a hat. I don't have anything else I'm planning on recording throughout the day. Maybe I'll do a game preview later for Lakers. Said I'm just gonna throw on a hat and call it good. Had to run some errands today. And besides, I like this hat. So I said I'm gonna wear my hat today. So there you go. But then
As
somebody,
much as it pains me, I actually kind of like that hat too. I think it's sharp. So
thank
but
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
It'd look
much.
better if it was in green and a completely different team,
I
but that's
don't wear I
okay.
don't wear green. Come on.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
don't own anything purple. So
yeah,
that's
there
not
you go.
true. I
Yeah,
do
you've
own an
got your
Orlando
you have a
City
purple
hat.
hat. Your
Yeah,
Orlando
it's an
City
Orlando
hat.
City hat. Yeah,
Yep.
purple and yellow actually. So which
I'm
is
just gonna, you know what? When I see you in a few weeks, I'll just on the sly, I'm gonna put a Lakers Nation sticker
there we
over
go.
the top
Yeah, you
there.
put it right over top.
um, Gil said, "Will a real Trevor Lane please stand up?" I'm the real
Please
Slim
stand up.
Shady.
Please stand up. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Right on the same page.
There we go. There we
Segues
go.
on a Friday.
Okay, so what are you thinking about this whole Russell Westbrook thing? So Russell Westbrook volunteering to come off the bench for the Clippers in order to make the starting lineup flow a bit better. So that means the starting lineup will now be Ivica Zubac, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Terrence Mann. That'll put James Harden in essentially the point guard role with that group rather than having to work together with Russell Westbrook. And this comment says the Clippers are doing their best to control the narrative while throwing shade on how the Lakers benched Russ. It's laughable. What do you think? Where do you think the truth lies in this? And maybe it doesn't matter. Do you think this was really Russell Westbrook's idea, or do you think the Clippers went to him and said, "Hey, look, this is your chance to look real good too. Not only we have to do this, but we're going to say it was your idea, and you're going to come out looking good here."
Yeah, I certainly don't think there was anything intended towards throwing shade on the Lakers. I that's not a part of this, but I do think I think it probably was him. Ty Lue made it pretty clear, in his opinion, either Russ would start or Russ would not be on the team. I
Yeah.
don't think Ty Lue felt comfortable putting him on the bench. So I think what happens in this situation is I think Russ coming to them, that takes it away from Ty Lue, right? Then he doesn't have to be the one who puts Russ on the bench and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's for Russ is I think last year's experience coming off the bench, which was the right thing for the Lakers to do a year ago. I think he's realized, hey, there's no shame in that. Like he's done
Yeah.
it now. It doesn't mean you're not still a Hall of Fame player and all that. Chris Paul's coming off the bench. We saw Carmelo Anthony. Now it took him a couple years to accept that role, but then he came off the bench and really excelled in that role. So I think you're starting to see these Hall of Fame guys say, you know what, I can do this. This doesn't tarnish the things I accomplished earlier in my career as long as I can adjust to it and be productive. Lesser player, I still think he's probably going to make the Hall of Fame too. But like Al Horford's coming off the bench this year for the Celtics
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I think we're just in a spot where we're going to see more guys. If it is, hey, this is how I can extend my career a couple more years and play a productive role on a good team. We'll see if that's where the Clippers end up. This is a smart move to kind of take this step back.
The guys who need to care or who should care about starting or not starting, right? Like, and it's a big deal to a lot of players, but these are the guys who haven't made their money yet that it's really gonna matter to, or at least they're still in their prime earning years. For guys like Russell Westbrook, guys like James Harden, these veteran players that are at the and not at the end, but at the tail end of their careers, these are the guys where starting or not starting matters way less than winning or not winning, right? Like winning or losing. So winning is what matters the most for these guys now because he's made his money. He's not going to make it's not like he's going to have a great year this year and somebody's going to give him a 4-year $80 million contract next year. Those days are gone. So your next contract doesn't matter so much. You've made your money. Now it's just about winning and doing whatever it takes to win. And I'll tell you this, I've seen a lot of the, and I don't know if maybe the Clippers said something that I just didn't see or something like that. A lot of the, they're throwing shade at the Lakers or whatever because the Lakers bench Russ, and now here it's Russ's idea. I hope it's all true. I hope that it's in terms of him going to the Clippers because there's two conflicting perceptions of Russell Westbrook. There's Russell Westbrook, the player who is not malleable at all, who you have to play his style, and his style doesn't mesh with anybody else. And it's really tough to figure out how to put a team around him that really works. You have to be very particular and very specific about how you build a team around Russell Westbrook. And then there's Russell Westbrook, the person who, to a man, everybody that we've ever talked to says is this incredible teammate, is uplifting, is willing to do whatever to help his teammates win, and all of these things. he also can be pretty prickly in press conferences.
Sure.
So it's like there's all these different versions of Russell Westbrook. And so I hope this is all accurate, that Russ said, you know what? I recognize what's best for the team. And he went and he initiated all of this and said, I'm going to come off the bench and everything, because that falls more in line with this good guy, Russell Westbrook, this guy that's this incredible teammate. And that's what I hope is the truth that shines through in all of this.
Yeah, I'm going to believe the reporting. Chris Haynes is generally pretty close with the organization and with Russ as far as media members that Russ has allowed in. He is not allowed a lot in. And to be fair, that goes all the way back to when he was in his early years with Oklahoma City. That team was as insulated with one of the smallest media markets, and they pretty much were, hey, we're going to talk to our 5-6 local guys, and that's going to be kind of it, and then we'll go from there. So
we just got a mini Woj grenade, perhaps.
Yeah.
The Suns star Bradley Beal is expected to miss several more games with his sore lower back. So we didn't even get one game, did we? Because he got ruled out right before the game that was supposed to have all three. The Suns have not had all three of their big three together at all yet this season.
Yep. Yeah, I said early in the year it was going to be 50 games was my over-under that they would all play together, and that felt potentially even a little bit high, and here we are now. I'll say it's probably going to be closer to 40. Yeah. At best. If we even get that many, it might be 30. So now the Suns official update says he'll be reevaluated in 3 weeks.
Whoa!
From the Suns. So that's
the from the Suns account.
From the Suns. Yep. From the Suns official Twitter. Yep. Or X or whatever that we're calling it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yes,
there it is.
3 more weeks. So that's another 10-ish games at least in that 3 weeks. So this is the problem with you put these teams together, but all 3 players have injury histories. Devin Booker's probably get the cleanest one. That's the tough part, right? It looks great and sounds great on paper, but who knows when we'll see it, if we'll see it, and how much we'll see it when we do. And that's the problem is, these are you're relying on 3, let's call it $40-50 million players to stay healthy and be, in your lineup every single night. Yeah, that's just not going to be a thing.
Keith, I don't have this. Is it reevaluated in 3 weeks? I don't have it up.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
It says we'll be out and reevaluated in 3 weeks.
So 3 weeks from today, because I'm looking at the schedule and I just counted through, that's 12 games for the Phoenix Suns. 3 weeks from today is Friday, December 15th. Unless I miscounted there. Or is that right?
That should be like 4 weeks. Right?
Yeah, that should be 4. Okay. 4. Oh, I skipped a Friday. Okay. So really we're looking at, we're closer to that 10 game range. Man, that's still that's a lot.
And then once you get into that range too, as what we like to say, that's reevaluated, and that turns into a thing about that then kind of turns into a spot where it is how do I put this? It might be closer to Christmas before you actually see him, because it's going to take him a little bit of ramp up time to get back in there, assuming he's cleared right at the 3 week mark.
Keith, I see what happened. I'm looking at the game schedule. I'm just a list of scheduled games for the Suns. The just what we were talking about earlier, that there's a hole in the schedule. The hole in the schedule. So I skipped over that. Yep. So we don't know. We can't say for sure, because that's when these tournament games would get filled in. I think it's December 8th would be 3 weeks to the day.
Yeah.
And those tournament games that have to be filled in are the ones that are missing. So we can't say for sure how many games it's going to be, but that's a long time. That's a long time to be without Bradley Beal. And then, like you said, who knows? It's a back. He gets reevaluated. It could be, like you said, closer to Christmas. That's tough. That's tough.
Back injuries did something that I became attuned to very early on in my NBA fandom. Is Larry Bird is my favorite player ever. And it was for the last portion of his career, was every single game was is he going to play or not with the back? And is he going to be out for 2 weeks, or is this going to be a 1 day thing? And a lot of those 1 day things turned into 2 week type injuries, because that's what happens with back injuries. So that is Super messy. Mike Wolf says Bones Highland said Chris Haynes was lying about him being out of the rotation.
Mm.
Haynes is not always right. No reporter is always right. Haynes was
Yeah.
absolutely right about this. Bones Highland isn't in the rotation anymore and was out of the rotation before the Harden trade was made. They cut down their rotation right before that. Highland saw his minutes cut. And then when they brought Harden in, they said, we're not going to play him in the rotation because they're too small. So he is out of the rotation. So not sure what point was trying to be made there.
Sometimes there's different perspectives on things too, depending on who a reporter is hearing from, and that can create some miscommunications. But like, think back to even, I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I want to say it was Ian Rappaport and J.K. Dobbins, where last year in the NFL, where the report was that he was going to be out, and he's saying, nope, I'm not, I'm fine, and all, and back and forth, and then lo and behold, he's out. It just, sometimes guys don't like what's put out there about them until they'll push back, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. But the reporter isn't just making this up, isn't just saying this out of nowhere.
Maybe. No, hopefully not, unless they're a certain sideline reporter who is.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What
I saw the headline on that, but didn't dig into the story. What the heck happened there?
So Carissa Thompson was on a podcast. I don't remember which one. She told a story about how early in her career, if she couldn't catch the coach going in or coming out of the locker room, or if they just refused to talk, she would sometimes make up the sideline report. Now she said later, she said after, it's it was a how do I put this? It was she put out an Instagram statement, I think, basically saying, I never attributed those things to the coaches when I said, things like, oh, they need to do better on third down. They need to bring more pressure on the passer, whatever it was. She's like, I'd look at the game trends and know what the coaches were going to say, which is fair because they say pretty much the same thing, right? In any one of those, like it's, every NBA one is, we need to rebound better. We need to run the floor. We need to, take care of the ball.
That's stuff you and I would put on social media at halftime, right?
Yeah. They're useless. These in-game coach interviews are just a waste of time.
Right.
But, so she said I would make it up. And then that sparked a whole day's worth of like, whoa, wait a minute. Now she's saying, well, this was, I was telling a story from years ago, and I would never actually make it up and say the coach said these things.
Right.
And now it's a whole bunch of like, wait, are you lying now, or are you lying about lying before? And it's just very, very messy.
I could see where I would make it up. Where what I'm trying to convey is I'm improvising on the fly because I didn't get a comment, so I'm providing my own analysis. Like, I didn't get a coach, so I just made up something real quick and went with that. And then that could be taken as I made up like a fake quote or something that I said was coming from the coach.
It was just dumb.
That's okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Roberto said, what NBA city would you guys recommend to go see a game? I'm a Lakers fan trying to see my first game outside of LA. Boston. So I actually have somebody who was on our show last night. We did a channel membership live show for Lakers Nation, who is seeing a Lakers game in Boston. I have not done that before. I've never been to Boston. So I don't know, like, what do you think is the best city to see an NBA game? I can say the Golden State Warriors arena, the Chase Center is pretty impressive. If you get a chance to check that one out. That one blew me away.
It's impressive when they're playing well too. It's a great crowd. They really get kind of rolling in there with that. I think, you could go to Boston. You can feel safe in wearing your, Lakers colors in Boston too. No one's going to be like a huge jerk to you unless it kind of, if you don't start stuff, there won't be stuff kind of there. You're going to get some good natured, ribbing. Like people are going to kind of get on you. So I've probably told this story before. I'm not a Red Sox fan, despite growing up in Boston. My favorite team is actually the Yankees. My family weren't big baseball fans. First game I ever went to was Yankees Red Sox, and Don Mattingly gave me a ball, and he became my hero. I was 6, and it was like, this guy's amazing. He played for the Yankees, so they became my team. I have sat everywhere possible in Fenway Park for Yankees Red Sox games, and I've never had a problem beyond people yelling at me, but never in a place where I felt unsafe or anything like that. And I don't stand up and give a bunch of crap to a bunch of people either. It's not in my nature to do that. So I think you'd be fine. Yeah, Boston is a great place to see a game. It's always a good crowd. I mean, it's Celtics Lakers too. Like if you
Yeah,
want to see a game there, yeah, that's one of the games to see. So if you can pull it off, absolutely pull it off. I think that would be a great place to go.
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
And it's a great city too. I mean, I assume you're not gonna fly in, go to the game, and fly home immediately. Spend some time in the city. It's really cool. If you like history at all, there's nowhere better to be. My opinion, for what started a lot of the founding of our country. A lot of it started in Boston. It's a very, very small city. It's extremely walkable. There it's just there's a lot packed into a very tight area there, and there's places you shouldn't go, like every major city, at night by yourself. And, but I don't know a major city that doesn't have an area like that. But for the most part, I think it's fairly safe too. So yeah, I would, I recommend, checking out Boston if you've never been.
And I can say in Memphis, they've got Bourbon Street literally right outside the arena. So you can walk out of the arena and walk down Bourbon Street and
Yeah.
have yourself a good time.
New Orleans Arena is super close
Yep.
to, right to, all the famous areas of New Orleans as well. And the New Orleans food scene, it's hard to beat it in the United States of
Go
anywhere.
get some
Chicago's
beignets.
super cool too. Chicago's just a super cool city to go to anyway. In New York, I highly recommend, if you have a chance, go see a game at
Oh, yeah.
Madison Square Garden at some point. It's just unbelievable. It's like an experience where it's different than a lot of other places, and it's really cool.
All right. My imposter says, you don't know how excited I get after I brought up Trevor always gives the reevaluation speech. And I started saying, I know I always say this, but felt like part of Lakers Nation. Yeah. I mean, it's a point because you and I both hear it, Keith. We get
Yep.
the people asking us, what the heck? The guy's supposed to be back in 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. Where is he? That was reevaluated in 2 weeks. It's two different things. Two different things. Darren said, watching Jeremy Sohan play point for the Spurs has been a disaster. What are your opinion? And do y'all think the Spurs are still tanking? Huh.
Yeah, to the latter part, no, not right now. I think this was their way to get their best 5 players that they think are their best 5 guys on the floor together at the same time. And it was a chance to, I think it's the Spurs owning, we're not going to be very good this year. Like, we're not going to be a playoff contending team. So let's find out, does this work? Now, to that point, the Jeremy Sohan point guard experiment has been, as he said, a disaster. It's a complete mess. The Spurs offense is terrible. And a big part of it is they're much, much better with Trey Jones on the floor. And now it is starting to have a spillover effect to Victor Wembanyama is not getting touches in the right places. There's times when he's being missed when he's wide open. Devin Vassell is getting missed when he comes off plays. And Jeremy Sohan himself has come out and said, I'll clean it up here, but I hate this crap. Like he doesn't like this. So I think that is a spot where it is. How do I put it? It's just messy with this. So yeah, it's time to go away from it. I would probably consider putting Sohan or maybe Keldon Johnson if they think he's the guy. Put one of the two of them on the bench, play Trey Jones, or get a better upgrade in there at point guard, and play the other guy. Whoever goes to the bench, still going to get 30 minutes a night off the bench because they can play a bunch of different positions. But you got to start doing what's right for the entire team versus trying to experiment with, can this one guy handle this role?
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, now is the time to find that stuff out because they're not super worried about winning or losing or anything like that. So are they actually tanking?
Yeah,
kind of. I mean, they're winning is not their main priority, but are they actively taking? Like, are they trying to make themselves worse to lose games? I don't think so. They're in fact finding mode right now. They're just trying to figure out what it is they have, what they don't have, and then I would expect them to make some steps forward. Maybe at the trade deadline, most likely in the summer though. They'll try to make some steps forward and probably have some pretty solid draft capital over the summer too to help give them that boost.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly not going to be pushing, but if they were tanking, they'd be sitting guys out more often than that. They don't have a single player that's, prone to the resting policy and those kind of things. They don't have any all-stars on that team right now. So they're clean from that perspective. And Victor Wembanyama, it doesn't matter if he makes 65 games because that's not a qualifier to win
Mhm.
rookie of the year. That's not like some of the other postseason awards. So but they're going to play him. They're going to play the other guys. It's just, yeah, maybe it's a stealth tank move a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
also too early. Nobody really starts full blown tanking until you get into December. There's just moves that are designed around experimentation. And if we win, it's a happy accident. If we lose, we don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just it. They're not worried necessarily about winning or losing games right now. They're just not. Keith, I want to get your thoughts on Steve Kerr coming out and saying, yeah, Draymond deserved to get a 5-game suspension. Like, he knows it's a bad look. He was wrong. All of that. Rather, typically you see coaches come out in support of their players. Kerr just kind of came out and said, yeah, Draymond messed up. What do you think about Kerr being so, like, just forthright about all this?
I think there's two things. I think in the immediate aftermath, he was singing a bit of a different tune, and I wonder if he hadn't seen all the video and
Right.
the angles and those kind of things. And that's fine. It's these coaches sometimes speak within 10 minutes of a game ending
Yeah.
to the media, so it's hard to expect that they've seen everything at that point. So I think that's part of it. I also think it wouldn't be surprising if there was a little bit of whether it was internal or it came from the league itself of, hey, take a look yourself, like, and now see what you think.
Right.
And now he's right, right? He's certainly not going to go to Rudy Gobert's level and call this guy a clown, but I do think
Right.
he's correct in that. Yeah, Draymond was wrong. This was bad stuff by him, and we need to, move and he needed to be punished and punished where he was. So I get it. I also think this is Steve Kerr kind of saying like, yeah, it was harsh, but he deserved it versus oh, this is a way to be like, oh, wait, I think this punishment was fair for this versus the idea of coming out and all these people were being like, you should have got 10 games, 20
Mm-hmm.
games, 30 games, whatever it was. So I think this is him just being a little bit more, hey, let me balance here in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I think it's a wise approach here, but again, it was noticeable that, and like you said, after the game, it was a little bit of a different story, but even the view right from the sideline there can be different than what you're going to get when you're looking at 5 different camera angles of the same thing. So,
And this it's like a car crash, right? Like they always say, you get a car crash, you get 10 eyewitnesses, you're going to get 10 different stories.
yeah.
Now, they might all in the end say, this is what happened. They might all reach the same conclusion of Draymond Green choked out Rudy Gobert, but they're going to have 10 different reasons why he did that and the way he did that. Just heads up, our dogs are going to go bananas because the Amazon guy's walking to the front door.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I literally just heard the truck pull up at my house too. We are even coordinated with our Amazon
Perfect.
deliveries, Keith.
Hopefully he doesn't ring the doorbell. Let's see. He doesn't think he's gonna.
Uh-oh.
There they go. They heard him out there.
They heard him. They're like, oh, we must protect the house.
Yep. And it's that time of year where there's going to be, if I know my wife and daughter, there's going to be an Amazon delivery pretty much like every other day because it's like, oh, we needed this for Christmas and we needed this for Christmas. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, all right, well, that's 7 more freelance articles for me because somebody's got to pay for all these Christmas presents.
My wife warned me today. She said, just so you know, like all the things are coming today. I said, what do you mean? She said, all the things are coming today. I'm like, okay, so a few packages are arriving. All right.
When I get the, just so you
that.
know, I know it costs us some money.
Yeah. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Okay. Just so you know, don't look at the credit card.
Right.
What do you think about the Kings? I've got a few people asking about the Kings. Kings going to make the second round. Got to make it the second round at least, in my opinion. People saying the Kings look good. They shot the hell out of the ball against the Lakers the other night. Kevin Huerter went insane. I mean, he was coming off a screen, just turn and just throw the ball, and it was just nothing but net. It was crazy. They looked fantastic. So yeah, I mean, they're one of the top teams in the West, and that was kind of what we thought coming into the season they were going to be. They're one of those teams that's in that mix. That's the blender of a Western Conference.
Yeah, I think when they have everybody in their whole, they're the best offense in basketball. It's kind of hard to argue with
Yeah.
that. I know the Pacers are doing crazy things right now. Denver's really good. Boston is really good. But I mean, the Kings are really, really tough, and they know who they are too. They know, all right, we're gonna come in, we're gonna run a lot of the two-man game with Fox and Sabonis. But now Keegan Murray is stepping into more than just being a spot up shooter or a cutter. He's starting to say, hey, you could throw it to me late in the clock and I'll create something myself. And his defense has been really, really good. He's starting to step up and take on more of those bigger assignments against the bigger wings and even some guards. He's stepping up and defending those guys. Sneaky thing to watch. Davion Mitchell is out of the rotation entirely in Sacramento. Hasn't played in their last few games, and it's not injury related. It's Mike Brown said, I'm putting him on the bench. We feel like we've got other guys we want to run with, so that it becomes a kind of thing to watch as well down the line, because clearly he's never going to be more than a high-end backup for them at the very highest point because of the presence of De'Aaron Fox. Mm-hmm. So that could turn him into a trade chip, and there are teams that could use a guy like Davion Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. So they could be another team to try to make. There's going to be a lot of teams that I think will be motivated by the trade deadline to try to add a little something to get themselves over the top. And I think the Kings are one of those teams. Keith, we had a little breaking news here, and it's not NBA, but NFL. Joe Burrow done for the season.
Oh, yeah,
season
I saw his hand
pretty
banged up.
Man, I don't know if you saw him try to throw a ball last night. That was that was scary. He actually threw a touchdown on the pass that he got hurt on. Threw a touchdown to Joe Mixon, and now he's out for the season. Man, they
haven't been good, right? Am I correct?
They were getting better. They were on the upswing. They were getting, because Burrow hurt his calf to begin the season, and then and he was awful. And then it looked like they started to look like themselves again, and now that's all gone. And that means Joe Mixon. That means Jamar Chase. That means T. Higgins. That means all the Bengals are going to take a hit here.
Somebody asked which football teams we support, and I don't know if that was a like NFL football question or if that was a like football, like soccer question. But if re-ask it and let us know which one you're asking about, we'll answer that here before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Somebody else asked where I just saw it and I lost it. Oh, do we like Star Wars? I don't know where you stand on Star Wars.
I'm kind of like lukewarm on it. Like there's so much. I'm very much behind in it. I haven't really watched, I haven't watched Mandalorian. I haven't watched any of that kind of stuff, but I'm having a hard time keeping up with anything right now. Like anything that's not NBA. I have a tough, because realistically, like my wife's not going to watch Star Wars. She's not going to watch the like Loki or anything like that. She doesn't watch any of that stuff. And so I got to wait for her to go to bed basically to watch that stuff. But I'm usually at that point of the night, I'm so busy editing or recording that it's either do I want an extra hour of sleep or do I want to stay up and watch this show? And I can't turn the volume on super loud anyway. So if it's something I really have to pay attention to, it's tough. So I'm not, I am behind on a lot of stuff, and Star Wars has just been buried on the list of things that I just can't seem to find time to watch any of these things right now.
Yeah, there's some stuff out there people are throwing. Victor said Andor is the best show on Disney Plus, hands down. Yeah, he might be right. Andor is really, really good. It's a gritty Star Wars, I would call it, where it's it's a little more real than others. As real as
as lightsaber
battles
and
can
the
go,
Force and all that.
Yeah, there were some fun storylines in that, and that ties in. I like Star Wars. I'm in the middle. I did not watch. I just finished the Clone Wars. I was not somebody who watched the animated shows. It just hit at a weird time for me where I wasn't into that stuff, and it's really good. Like, it's some of the best stuff I've seen. So I'm catching up to some other things. I saw only a little bit of Star Wars Rebels, so we'll watch a little bit of that. But yeah, it's I enjoy Star Wars. I like it. I'm way more into the Marvel stuff, but
yeah.
I'll watch some Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm definitely more into Marvel, certainly, but Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, man, I don't have a chance to watch anything right now.
Yeah,
It just hasn't been happening.
yeah, this time of year, everything gets put to the side. And
Yeah.
then, like I said, as excited as I am about college basketball playing in season tournaments, which means like day games, like all week, this week and next,
Mhm.
with the Thanksgiving tournaments that happen, that just chews into that time as well. But I really don't spend a lot of time watching things that are non basketball at this point because there's too much to catch up on, and I try to catch up on when I can. And I find myself now gravitating towards, if I'm behind on things, I'll start pulling college clips to see some of the draft prospects guys. I'll get into the G League stuff.
Mhm.
Like today, I had some extra time this morning because there was only 2 games last night. So I watched a bunch of the G League Ignite stuff that I hadn't seen so far this year, just to get a sense of where some of their kids are at that are draft prospects. So it's been different. Yes, Clone Wars gets better after season 1.
Hmm.
It really does. It's really, really good after season 1.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. This one said, hey, fellas, thoughts on my Nets? I think this offseason we might pivot off of Mikal Bridges if I can get a trade around a young up-and-coming player. Isn't Bridges supposed to be a young up-and-coming player?
That's what I would think he is. And thanks for checking in, Your Majesty.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
appreciate you joining us here, taking some time out of your day. We know we're big in England there, and you got a little bit of time. It's what, like 8 o'clock at night over there? 9,
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, I don't think pivoting off Bridges is the right move. I think he's a guy you build around,
Yeah.
versus used to rebuild. After. I do think it's very interesting. So I made a comment today after watching Nets Heat, and all I said was Mikal Bridges is the Nets' best player. Is Nick Claxton the second best player? And a lot of Nets fans replied with Cam Thomas is our best player, which
Oh,
seems way out of bounds for me. Cam Thomas has had good runs last year and a great start to the season before getting hurt, but better than Mikal Bridges. That's, if you want to argue he's the second best player, all right, I'm not going to fight you too much on that, but better than Mikal Bridges, that seems, like a bridge too far.
he's better as just a scorer, I guess. But and Bridges has not shot the ball well from deep this season, so that's
Sure.
part of the equation. But still, yeah, I mean, Cam Thomas is more a pure scorer than anything else. Like,
It doesn't do a lot else right now,
right?
which is fine. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I would go that far. I like Mikal Bridges, and I think, look, if they decide to go that route, let's say the Nets say, you know what, yeah, he's not our guy. Let's move on. Let's move him. Let's do the 76ers with Michael Carter Williams, who's got a good young player, and let's move on from him. What do you think they get in return? Because I imagine there'll be a lot of teams knocking on that door.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. He would get a good young player, I would imagine. It's hard to get much younger than Mikal Bridges, but somebody who's probably still on a rookie scale contract that you can build, or maybe just extended in the last year or so. And then I would want a couple draft picks if I was the Nets, but I don't know. I would keep Bridges. I think he's on a very good contract. I think you're in a place where he's a guy you build around versus kind of coming over to. Yeah, I mean, he's not old, guys. He's like in his mid to late 20s. Like, he's still fine. He's probably pre-prime by another year or so. So I don't know. I'm just not going to move off Mikal Bridges unless it's a really nice package. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Where the thought process comes from is maybe it is time to look a little bit different and do something kind of different if we wanted to build up a different way.
So I guess for me, this time of year, I'm asking the question a lot: what's real? What's
Sure.
real and what's not? So, for example, I don't know that Cam Thomas is ever like a 30-point per game scorer. Maybe he will be, but is Mikal Bridges a 29% 3-point shooter? I feel pretty confident saying he's not. That's not real. He's going to be ultimately, when the dust settles, he's going to be better than that. So right now, I look at his offensive production and think, well, there's some added efficiency that's probably coming here when we just see regression hit his 3-point shooting. And then on the flip side, defensively, there's a big difference when Mikal Bridges is on the floor compared to Cam Thomas. According to Cleaning the Glass here, with Bridges on the floor, just making sure that Bridges is one of the guys on the floor, the Nets rank in the 61st percentile defensively, which is okay, right? That's not bad. With Cam Thomas, 37th percentile
Yeah.
defensively. Like there's a
Yeah.
big gap between those two guys. And sometimes I think we put too much value on offensive production and just who's hitting and who's taking and making difficult shots. And I think that comes into play if you're trying to make the argument that Cam Thomas is more valuable or better than Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, our buddy Danny LaRue calls it "yay points." Like
Yeah.
that's where what he calls it. And it's. I mean, and I have long argued against people who are completely out on the guys who are pure scorers, and that's what they do, because there is still a place for that in the league. I'm not told Cam Thomas is going to be contending for the scoring title on anything that is a functionally good team. He may do that on a team that is bad and not winning games, because he can certainly put up points. So yeah, we'll see. But I don't know. I don't think it's too crazy. Somebody said Josh Giddey on draft
Yeah.
picks. Maybe.
Giddey and some
You know,
picks.
yeah, I could see it would have to be more just from the matching salary standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I could see something like that maybe being away, and I'd be all right with that. With him as part of the mix there with that OKC group. Give him a little bit more. I know Giddey may actually be taller than Mikal Bridges, but Mikal Bridges plays bigger. He just can defend bigger players. So a little more size. Him and Jalen Williams together on the wing. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would
That
be.
Thunder team, man, they're good.
They are good.
SGA last night shot like crap and still completely dominated the game. Once you get to that point, that's superstar. Like you're a superstar. Like when you can have a absolutely terrible shooting game and still dominate and control everything that happens on the floor, you're there. Man, he is just really special player.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Did you see the story about his house?
Mm-mm.
So there's a story that's been going around about SGA's house. He bought a house in Toronto and has had to leave that house. And it was funny that the headline said something like SGA, can't is scared off of home or something. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact wording, but it made it almost sound like his house is haunted or something like that, like the wording did. It turned out he bought a house, and it turned out the previous owner or tenant or whatever the situation was somebody who was one of those like crypto guys and scammed a bunch of people out of money. And so now people are showing up at SGA's house looking for this guy. And he's just like, man, I don't feel safer. And so they left until they can get this all settled. I'm like,
That's
okay,
crazy.
it would have been way cooler if it was like some ghost story or something like that. But
The
but
ghost
no,
from the haunted hotel in Oklahoma City, the Skirvin. Have you heard that?
I have
story?
not.
So there's a hotel in downtown Oklahoma City. It's called the Skirvin Hotel, and it's reported to be haunted.
Uh-huh.
And it is I might have this wrong, but I think Baxter Holmes did a whole story on it for ESPN. This has to be 5, 6, 7 years ago. And if you look it up, there are NBA teams that will no longer stay there because players on those teams are like, weird stuff was going on in my room, and somebody took the covers off my feet and was touching me. Like I saw something, doors were opening on their own, like crazy stuff. And there's a bunch of NBA teams that will not stay in this hotel anymore. It's like one of the nicer
I'm looking at pictures of the hotel right now. It is a little spooky looking.
Yeah. The Skirvin. Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a thing. Like it's out there.
It's got a little bit of like a Tower of Terror vibe to it.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, check it out. Find the NBA story because it was really interesting. There was a handful of players like on the record. We're like, yeah, weird stuff happens in that hotel. I will not stay there.
Well, now I kind of want to. I want to go cover a game in OKC and stay there and check it out. We'll do a live stream from there and see if any creepy stuff happens behind us.
Yeah, perfect. That is that's another cool place to see a game because it's probably the NBA's closest equivalent to like a college crowd.
Yeah.
They stand until they score. They're pretty loud and they get going. And now that the team's playing well again, like that's a cool place to go see a game also. So yeah,
another good one just to bring it full circle there.
Yeah.
All right.
Sean sleepy emoji. Poor Sean's never gonna live that down.
Sean sleeping. Where are you seeing that?
J Joe said it. I assume that's picking on Sean Davis
Yeah.
falling asleep in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's funny. I can't see it.
He missed a good meal too.
He did. He did. So we did a members only show last night for channel members for Lakers Nation, and Sean showed up like 15 minutes late and clearly had been sleeping. And so everybody got to spam that emoji, and it was
Somebody's gonna get
fun.
Sean a alarm clock for Christmas.
I think he's coming. He just, he sleeps through things, and so he sleeps through team dinners. He slept through our fantasy football draft for the company. He likes his naps. He likes his naps.
Dan Leslie, this is probably a good one to finish on. It just came in. Did you see it?
Yeah. Okay. Said, if you guys had to swap teams for a season, which iteration of the Lakers Celtics would you choose to watch? I'd watch me some Larry Bird. Ooh, that's a good question.
All right, I can answer mine while you think about it.
Okay.
100% the Showtime Lakers
Yeah.
with Magic. Like, it was, even though that was the biggest rivalry of my life as a kid growing up, it was hard not to appreciate how fun that team was. Like, they played just differently from the way Boston played, where it was, and it was weird too, because if you look at it, they both ran and fast breaked and played at a very similar pace. It just felt like the Lakers playing that way. And I'll be honest, I had, like, as a kid, like the high dribble, like Magic had, which is funny because I don't know if you've heard, he talked about it once when he was still doing TV regularly. He was like, I'd never get away with that now. They'd just steal the ball from me. He's like, I would have had to have learned to become a better dribbler. But yeah, that would have been it for me. Like, that's a pretty easy choice just to watch him play every day, night in, night out. And there was no league pass. So it was like, I only caught the Lakers when they played the Celtics or they played on national TV, which thankfully was quite a bit.
My snarky answer, if I had to watch a Celtics season, it would be the 2010 Celtics.
I was gonna say.
But no, I think I would pick the same. Instead of the Showtime era, I would watch some of those Celtics teams with, especially, like, obviously Larry Bird is great, and we're always going to go to him initially, but I would have so much fun watching Kevin McHale and the footwork, the post moves, all that sort of stuff. That era Celtics would be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I threw it out there too, just because we were talking about it with some of the guys I used to work with at Celtics blog, who our favorite Celtics were, not the best Celtics, but like guys you liked the most. And we were like, all right, let's limit this to people we actually watched. And I was just like, yeah, I was we were going through, and I said, yeah, it's for me, it's Bird because that's who I grew up on. I really loved KG. I love Tatum. Like, he's just, to me, night in, night out. And there's an attachment there because I've watched every game he's ever played in the NBA from rookie year to now. So there's some of that. A lot of people, when I threw it out to Twitter, though, a lot of people, which really made me feel good, mentioned Reggie Lewis. And there is for anybody in the chat, because I know a lot of these people are probably too young to have seen Reggie Lewis play. Google Reggie Lewis blocks Michael Jordan. You're going to get a YouTube channel, YouTube video that comes up. He blocked Michael Jordan 4 times in the same game. Like, blocked like MJ's jump shot 4 times. MJ's signature turnaround, he got to it in that game. So just really, really cool with that. So.
Oh yeah, here it is. They've got James Worthy talking about it. Oh yeah, there's he's got if this was the wingspan era,
yeah,
like Reggie Lewis's wingspan is ridiculous.
Awesome. Yeah, he was so good. And it honestly, him passing and Len Bias passing, like, that's like killed everything. Red Auerbach talked about it. He had lined up for 2 years to be able to try to draft Len Bias. Yeah. And he was like, we were finally going to have our answer to MJ as far as an athlete went in the Eastern Conference. And Bird has talked about where he's like, I probably could have played 2 or 3 more years because I wouldn't have had to play 35, 40 minutes a night.
Right.
It would have had Len Bias. And then Reggie, passing a few years later, was just rough. I mean, that was rough. And yeah, I wrote about it. I wrote an article on Celtics blog. We run it every year on the anniversary of Reggie passing, which was in the summertime. Len Bias passing, Reggie passing, and then my favorite player of that era that for non-Celtics was Drazen Petrovic. He passed in the same year. as Reggie Lewis. So that was a way, much younger version of me learned like, man, like death is like a real thing. Like it's not just something that happens like old grandparents and stuff. So yeah, it was a time. But man, that Reggie Lewis blocking MJ 4 times, that video is so great. And there's so many players who are like, nobody ever did that. Like no one did it. So that's the one I would love to ask Michael Jordan about that if I ever had a chance to interview him. I would be like, what happened? Like why?
Why did this happen? He looks, it's almost a little, the movements and stuff are almost a little Evan Mobley-esque.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how he moves out there and everything. Okay, well,
football. I'm a Patriots fan. Grew up, a Patriots fan. Always been a Patriots fan. Always will be a Patriots fan. They stink, but it's just discouraging because they stink. They'll probably get a really good draft pick and then trade back 38 times and end up with 14 second rounders and third rounders, and it'd be a mess. The other football, the world's football, I'm a Leeds United fan. I became a Leeds fan from the Amazon documentary, which I watched over the pandemic because I was just looking for anything to watch, especially sports wise. And I hadn't seen it. So I watched that and became a Leeds fan when I was trying to pick a Premier League team or an English football team. And they're down, but they're playing pretty well in the championship. And then it helped that they also then proceeded to sign half of the U.S.
team,
national team, it felt like. But yeah, but they're playing well again. So Pat's never winning the Super Bowl again. Okay. Hey, if they don't, that's fine. I saw him win 6. I don't care. They won 6. They went from every night they were a joke on the late night TV shows because they were so bad for the vast majority of my life, and they won 6 titles. I'm perfectly content if they don't win again. I'm not going to be upset.
They have not been fun to watch this season, but you never know. You never know. Is Belichick safe?
Yeah, I think he'd retire before they'd fire him.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. At least I don't think he's going to go anywhere.
Could be like a nudge into retirement.
Yeah. I part of me almost wishes he would just coach and not run everything.
Yeah.
But that's just never going to be a thing at this point. He's never going to cede that control. So, it is what it is. They messed with Mac Jones, and if you don't have a quarterback, you get
hard to win.
So yeah,
hard to win. For me, for what we call soccer, I will watch games that are on if it's Premier League. But in terms of what team am I like a fan of, it's mostly the LA Galaxy. I don't have any animosity towards LAFC, and I'll watch them too if they're on, just because my primary concern is seeing the sport grow in this country. So there's that. As far as football, NFL, I don't really have a team, and that's my wife is a big Cowboys fan, so we'll watch a lot of Cowboys games. But I grew up in in Southern California without the Rams. They were there when I was a kid, then they left. And so I didn't really have a team that I attached to at any point. And it's honestly kind of nice. I've kind of tried to keep it that way. I know a lot of people are diehards of any particular team and live and die with that team each week and everything. I do enough of that with the Lakers. So the NFL is kind of my escape for me, where I can put on any game at any time and whoever wins, and I can just enjoy the game. So yeah, I don't really have a particular NFL team. I root for who my fantasy players are playing for, and that's.
I was going to say your favorite team is your fantasy team.
Exactly. That's the way I am with the NFL, and my fantasy team took some hits last night with Mark Andrews and Joe Burrow on the same night, and I am hurting. So yeah, there's that.
I told you, man. That's why I gave that up. There's one fun day in fantasy football, and it's the draft. After that, it's just misery.
The draft is so much fun.
It's misery or relief. There's no joy. You're either relieved you played the right guys, or you're miserable that you didn't.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's call it a day there. I do appreciate everybody joining us here for Front Office Friday. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Watch some NBA basketball tonight. Watch the tournament. Going to be a lot of fun. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Hit that like button as well for us. And of course, give us that 5-star rating review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great way to help out the show. All right, everybody. Till next time. See ya. And stay safe.